Well, welcome everybody to today's Talk with Doc. Today we are talking, we're having a children's ministry and student ministry panel, and pretty much going to be talking on how you can welcome individuals with disabilities and special needs into your ministry without maybe even having a full special needs or disability ministry. And it's something you can do. The latest numbers show that we have 1 out of every 6 children in the United States has a disability. So, if you got a student ministry or children's ministry with 6 kids or more, you probably have someone with the special needs or a disability, and they're just not sharing that with you. And we need to see how we can welcome them in. And you don't have to have a full-fledged ministry to be able to do this. You just need to be able to welcome them and have a heart. And what I love is both of our guests on today have that heart and do a great job with it. So let's take a minute and let everyone introduce themselves. Denise, I'm going to start off with you. Ladies first. Why don't you take a minute, introduce yourself, and tell everyone about yourself, where you're at, and what you do.
Hey, I'm Denise Pitek. I am a children's minister at Cuyahoga Valley Church in Cleveland, Ohio. I've led children's ministries for the past 40 years, going on 41 years. But my background in education is in special needs. My first career, I taught severe, profound, multi-handicaps, medically fragile children, until I became a mom. And then I was like, wow, I really didn't appreciate what parents of people with disabilities, the challenges they faced until I became a mom myself. Your perspective changes. So I was part of the first special needs ministry straight out of college. And so wherever I've led children's ministry, I've always had a special needs ministry attached to that. Awesome.
Well, glad to have you here today, and I know you've got a lot of great wisdom to share with us today. So, looking forward to some great conversation. All right, Matthew, my friend, introduce yourself.
Yep, my name is Matthew Anderson. I work at a church called Rock Point in Queen Creek, Arizona. I've been working in ministry for about the last 3 years, and I've been working with those with special needs for the last 6 years. And for me, my heart is just that everyone would be included. I've seen too many areas, too many spaces where that doesn't exist. So whether there's a special needs ministry or not, I believe that you can always focus on it. All it takes is a heart and a willingness to do so. So that's one area that I'm just grateful to be here to be able to pour into, because it's just needed for more people to be equipped and challenged even to step into what does it look like to include other people that might have struggles, that might just be different in different ways. But everyone deserves inclusion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So before we get into things, let me just remind those who might be watching this on Zoom or any of those watching on Facebook Live, if you got questions while we're going, we'd love to take your questions live. If you're on Zoom, you can put them in the chat section or the Q&A, and we'll take them there. Or on Facebook Live, you can put them in the comments. I'm monitoring both of those, and we'll take your questions and answer those live for you. At the same time, maybe you're watching this. We'll have this also available on our YouTube page. Make sure you invite your children's, pastor, your children's ministry director, your student pastor and student ministry director to see this and watch this, because this is vital. Maybe you're a parent and you're wanting your church to do something, be able to welcome you better. Hopefully this can help with that. And remember, we are called as a church to welcome individuals with disabilities into the church. It's Luke 14. And we'll just set that as our ground, our ground rule there. Luke 14 is the great banquet feast in which Jesus says, go into the street and bring in the lame, bring in the blind, bring in the deaf, and give them a seat at the table. That table being the church. Why? Because the church needs those with disabilities just as much as those with disabilities need the church. They go hand in hand. But Jesus, it's so important to God that it's one of the rare times in scripture that Jesus would give. This is actually a command. He gave this command again, just 5 verses later in Luke 14. And once again said, go into the street, bring in the lame, bring in the blind, give them a seat of honor at the table. And this time he said, why? So that you will be blessed. Churches, if you don't welcome families with disabilities, you're missing out on a blessing. And I know, both of our panelists here, they've experienced the blessing of working with families with disabilities. And it's true. It is a promise. It's a command. And God does that. So, we want our churches to be biblical. And part of that is welcoming families with disabilities. And, yes, disabilities can be scary, but I always say there's one requirement to work with an individual with special needs or disability. It's a simple question. Can you be a friend? And that's all it takes. We don't have to be fearful of autism or, Down syndrome or anything else. These individuals have so much to offer, and we need to welcome these families and be able to help them as we go forward with things. So with that, let's kind of open up some of the discussion. What are ways, at first, Denise, I'm going to hit you in the children's ministry side. What are ways that children's ministry directors and pastors can welcome a family, can welcome an individual with disabilities into their ministry without having a full ministry?
I would say to be prepared. I have sensory boxes in each of my Sunday school rooms. So it's you have a sensory room. I'm blessed that I have that ability, but I also have some sensory boxes. So everybody has sensory needs, including me. I like to give the example for me to pay attention in a meeting. I sketch the room. So just having something in my hand like a pencil helps me to pay attention better and focus better. So you can have a sensory box appeals to your 5 senses. So something that different people have different sensory needs. So mine happens to be holding a pencil and moving my hands. But maybe someone, it's a schedule that, people that have trouble with transition, and it doesn't need to be someone with special needs, but children in general could have trouble with transition. So keeping a visual schedule of what's going to happen, or keeping a timer for when their parents are going to come back. That stuff is simple. It's inexpensive. You can make a visual schedule with a copy machine and some Pro and a ruler. But just being prepared. Practice a calm face when you see someone walk in the door and you don't know what to do with them. Practice having a smile and welcoming them when they come. And being in children's ministry for over 40 years, I know volunteers are always a struggle, but if you can have some volunteers, some extra volunteers that might just be on call, if you have someone with a special need that could be a buddy and can kind of evaluate your guests the first time they come, be with them, and then kind of see what their needs would be for the future. But just make sure that everybody feels welcome when they walk in your doors.
Yeah.
One other thing, and actually Steve Gersovich from Key Ministry kind of stoked this passion in me too. I don't know what your websites look like, but if you have the ability to do a kind of what to expect when you come on your website, or even pictures. I know that people that know their child will have a challenge coming will look on your website first, or visit you first to see what to expect when they get there. So the more pictures and visuals you can have on your website of what to expect when they come is also helpful.
Yeah, that's great information there. So let me just mention a couple things there in case anyone watching isn't real familiar with some of that. So a buddy is just a volunteer who is a guide on the side that helps an individual with a disability with that. And again, you don't have to have a ministry to be able to do it, but that's how, either in a children's ministry or a student ministry, you can welcome that individual into your ministry and have them integrated in that age appropriate classroom and help them. And they don't have to be the one they're teaching them anything. They're that guide on the side. They're help to keep them safe, help kind of keep them out of trouble. That sensory box is a great thing. And guess what? It doesn't have to cost a lot of money to put those sensory boxes together. One of the best sensory toys I've ever found is completely free, and you'll get them all donated to you. McDonald's Happy Meal toys. 75%, 80% of them are perfect sensory toys for individual with disability to play with and be able to focus on. And if you just ask your children's ministry, the families to donate them to you, they are ecstatic to get them out of their house, because we all know, and my kids were the same. They play with them, and as soon as they're home, they go on the floor, and all they become are things for you to step on and poke your foot with. So the families are excited to get rid of those and help you with that. So those are great ways. But exactly, just like you said, just easy things where we can welcome them.
And I use the Minion Happy Meal toys to tell Bible stories. So
that's awesome.
All the Minion toys come to me because I love Minions and the concept of Minions.
Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect. So Matthew, let's talk a little bit now on the student side of things. I think there's a lot of similarities there with it, but how about for students?
Yeah, I mean, I would totally lean into what Denise is saying. Those are all, very practical things, sensory, just being ready to welcome them, having that mindset. I think one thing as student ministries that we have to realize is kids grow up. There might be a vibrant children's ministry that have tons of special needs kids or those with disabilities. And that's something that you'll have to start preparing for as you carry and steward these kids through their children's ministry years into their student ministry years. Start forming relationships before their first time coming to a student's event. Start reaching out, building rapport with families. Families just want to know that their kid's going to be safe and cared for. And that's something that when you partner with the children's ministry, you can really step into. And I think that's vital, just as a church, that unity. I think some practical things, just as Denise was talking about buddies, in our context, we do something called friends. We just pair them with a peer or an older adult, depending on what the need is, depending on maybe if it's more of a behavioral or a sensory, but we just want every kid to not just be included, but we want them to belong. We want to get them in our doors with inclusion, but belonging comes from connecting them finding community. So that friend that they have, sometimes that's just someone in the same grade level as them. You just tap them on the shoulder. Hey, we have this new student coming. Would you mind hanging out with them this one time? It's not necessarily forcing anything, but you're allowing the opportunity for relationship, just genuine relationship to happen. And honestly, that's what most of these individuals need, is just a chance to have friendship. It's not that they're not capable. It's not that they're not able. It's just sometimes they're not put in the right settings. And that's what we as a church get to be a part of. So pair them with a friend. If they need an adult, find an adult who's willing and eager to just hang out, to be that guide on the side, just like Doc said. I think when you can do those things and start to form that mindset of, hey, we don't know all the answers, but we know we care about the things that matter, you'll start to see amazing things happen. You just have to start there. And then you let God do the rest. He's going to work. He's going to do what he does. Just be faithful in the little things and be scared. It's okay to not know the correct answers. It's okay to not know exactly what to do, but just take those little steps.
Yeah.
Can I
And
add to that?
yes, please.
I would just
please.
say, again, if money is a cost, look for donations. But I am over babies through 5th grade, but I also have people with special needs for their whole lifespan. So I created an age appropriate space. So if you have budget, great. But if you can, even though they special needs ministry often falls under children's ministry, make sure you have an age appropriate space for them. And again, people will donate furniture and things like that. But I think that adds some value added, and they're not, oh, we're being thrown into the children's ministry, but oh, this space was created for us. And again, you have to choose your battles, but I would fight for space. I was helping another ministry nearby, and they literally put their room in a closet. And I'm like, oh, this does not feel good. Be creative. And if you need help, ask for it. There's people that specialize in home decor and interior design, but see how you can find a space, especially for the teens and older with special needs. I would fight for a space for them. And the last thing I would say is that I have their life group when other life groups at the church are meeting. So Wednesday night's life group night, their life group is on Wednesday nights with everyone else. So they can be a part of the church,
right,
but still have their unique community.
Love it. Yeah, and those are all great things. And I'll go ahead and I'll make a pitch for us. SOAR Special Needs is here to assist any of you out there. That's one of our specialties, is helping churches in creating disability ministries, creating quiet rooms, creating sensory rooms. We've assisted over 400 churches throughout the United States and actually globally with that. So we'd love to help you. You can contact us at info@soarspecialneeds.org. And again, that's SOAR specialneeds.org. And we'd love to help you with that. One of the other things I want to talk on real quick, both of you have talked about the buddy and the friend, and I absolutely love what you're talking about there, Matthew, with getting the youth involved. And that's one thing we always need to remember. The youth are a perfect place for us to be helping with that. But I want to talk, especially right now, and both of you kind of mentioned it, we need to make sure we're taking care of these individuals throughout their lifespan, because these individuals with disabilities in elementary, they'll eventually be middle school, high school, and then they'll be adults. Well, you want to be able to welcome them the entire time at your church and not just have to send them away. And that's not the church. The church is not the one who's supposed to be sending people away because we can't meet their need. God actually commands us there to meet their needs. And so no one should ever age out of your ministry when it comes to disabilities and special needs. We need to serve them throughout. And here's another thing I want to challenge any ministry that's out there. One of the knee-jerk reflexes well, we can go ahead and accept you, but you have to stay as the parent to help take care of the child. Well, I want to just take a minute and speak to any ministry leader right now. And I'm speaking now as a parent. Let me help open your eyes on what it's like to be a parent of a child with special needs. Divorce rate's estimated to be around 90%. Stress is sky high. It's 24/7, 365. It is extremely hard. Just being able to get your child put together to come to church is a challenge on a Sunday morning to get there. And I'm telling you right now, the parents desperately, they're coming to church with their spiritual gas tank on fumes, and they need to get filled and they need to get energized. And the worst thing we could ever do to them is say, we can take your child only if you stay. I want to challenge you, because I'm pretty sure you're not saying that to every other neurotypical child that comes into your ministry. And we should not discriminate and treat anyone else differently just because they have a disability. And that's not right. That's not what Jesus would do. And so we need to find someone else, just like what Denise and Matthew were saying here, so that we can welcome them and help them out. So remember that. Also, we've got a question that's come in, and I'll throw it out to both of you first. Our question is, do you all ever use or have you used social stories? And if so, do you know resources for those? You're muted.
Denise, I'm not sure if you have a better answer than me in this
I
area.
was going to say youth ministry is probably better at that than I am.
Yeah, I think social stories is a little bit broad, so it can kind of depend on what avenue of that you're talking about. I think sometimes, like what we do when we have an individual who might have an adult friend with them, that's the time where we'll definitely lean into, hey, if they're struggling understanding any side of what we are teaching, communicating, or Bible stories, even other people talking about their own life stories through groups and things like that, that's where that person will kind of be able to adapt and change and mold whatever's being presented at whatever level their buddy or friend is at. But we don't really ever have a time where it's like, hey, this is where we're doing social story or social skills necessarily. We try to align as much as we can to just provide the same experience for any individual, where it's not creating something completely different. It's just creating whatever they need specifically. It's kind of adapting to wherever they're at. But they don't need a completely different way of doing things. They just need a way of doing things that's right for them. So that's kind of what we navigate through. But I wouldn't say that there's any great resource that I've ever used in that realm, just because that's not something that we as a ministry really focus on heavily on.
Yeah. So social stories are a great way that you can use for individuals, and some individuals, that's fabulous. You can make your own social story. There are some social stories out there, and you can actually Google them. And the question also is, are there any books you can give families on maybe even what to expect when they go to church for any new people? And there are some social stories that are out there for that, and you can make it more specific for your church, and just kind of helping them see through that. And I apologize, I'm blanking right now on the one website where there's some social stories that assist with that. But you can simply find it by just Googling social stories going to church, and it's there for you, and you can do that. One of the things I like to do and so for those of you that don't know what a social story is, it's basically having pictures. It's telling, what's going to happen through pictures, so that the individual can kind of get an idea of what to expect, and know. And what I like to do is, you can also get some of these pictures that are cartoony. There's some things out there that can make pictures for you. I'd like to actually go take actual pictures of where we're going to be, actual pictures of the children's classroom or the worship area or the student ministry room, just so that they know what to expect. And then picture when, maybe if student ministry has a band playing, they can see that. Other things that we can do to welcome our individuals, that doesn't take a lot of money. Just getting some hearing protection, getting some headphones. Those are other great things. You can get noise canceling headphones for like $7. And if you can't do that, just get earplugs. And those work just as well, because some of our friends, the music may be too much for them, but they like being in there. They want to be there. And so if you can just provide them some headphones that they can wear, they may even have their own that they wear, and welcome that and allow that. But there's a lot of things that we can do to help them through that. But I'd say for the social stories, check the Google, and you'll be able to find that there. But anything we can do to help make life easier and welcome the family, welcome the child, it's a win for us.
I'm going to add to that real quick, Doc.
Yeah.
one area we focus heavily on is partnering with the family, which looks it looks a little different. One thing I say is never create your cookie cutter. Always be ready to mold to shape whatever that looks like.
Amen.
But for us, it's with families to ask them what's going to help their child, their adult, their teenager feel included, feel welcome, feel ready to take on this challenge. Sometimes it might be a social story like that question asked. A lot of the times we provide tours to our families during the week when no one's there. They can come in, they can just spend some time sitting in the room, seeing what the church is like before all the stimulus is there, before there's a bunch of noise and stuff like that. And we've seen that work wonders, and the family feels cared for. That's half the ministry, is the family, the whole family, the parents, the siblings. And that's one area we really lean into, and just ask. If you don't know what's going to be the magic answer for them, say, hey, how can we help you coming to church for the first time?
And anything that's the same cues that they have at home and they have at school, you're going to get the most success with at church. So getting to know each individual and what their cues are, what their triggers are, that's going to make it easier. And exactly like Matthew said, I was going to say it's all individualized. So social stories is what I was talking about with the schedules. I just call them schedules because I'm older. And so we do have different pictures for each age range. And I do just Google them, but we use a ruler with Velcro, and we put Velcro on the pictures. And then we make the stories just on a ruler with Velcro. And again, depending on who the kid is, that determines how old or young the pictures are, how cartoonish, how realistic. But there is not, as Matthew said, a one size fits all.
Right. Yeah, and so I love that and absolutely agree with both of you. If you're able to bring them in earlier through the week, that's a great thing. I've done that a lot in the past, and that's a wonderful way that you can help them. Also, one thing I want to offer any leader that's out there, one thing that we've done, we've created a plan of care, which once you got a family that's going to be coming on a regular basis, I ask the families to fill out the plan of care. And what the plan of care does is kind of tells us, just like you're saying, what does the child or student like, or they dislike? And then when they have behaviors, what kind of behavior do they have? And how do you respond to that? Just so that you know how to best take care of them. And here's the great part, guys. You don't have to recreate it. Email us. We will share it with you. All you have to do is take our name off, our logo off, and put yours on and go with it. We are happy to share that with you. We also have consents that we've created. You can share, we'll share our consents with you. Again, email us at info@soarspecialneeds.org, and we are more than happy to share all that information. We want to help make you successful so that you can welcome these families. That's the whole part of it. Now, whenever you have a new family and they've got a child with a disability, I want to challenge people to ask a question. And it's a question that most people are never asked before. And it's one that you don't think about. Usually the first question that always comes up is, what is the diagnosis and what do I need to know to take care of problems? Well, when we're dealing with families with disabilities, all they ever hear are all the negatives. And no one ever talks about positives. And I want to challenge everyone. Have you ever asked an individual with disability or special needs what they want to do when they get older? We ask kids, we ask students all the time what they want to do when they get older. But for some strange reason, just because they have a disability, we never ask that question. Our friends with disabilities still have dreams, they still have goals, and we can encourage that and we can still ask that. So my question is always first to the parents, tell me something wonderful about your child. And frequently they'll start telling me about the diagnosis, and I'll always stop them. I say, nope, we'll get that later. Tell me something wonderful. And almost 100% of the time, mom and dad both start crying. Why? No one's ever asked them that. And there is so many wonderful things to share. And isn't that what the whole church is about? We're supposed to be celebrating people. We need to be finding the positives. We need to be focusing on the abilities, not the disabilities. And so as children's ministry, as student ministry, that's what we need to do is find out, hey, what's wonderful about your child that we can celebrate and make it a win. And it's amazing how that'll open huge doors for you to be able to partner with the families.
And I would say also find opportunities for those individuals to serve.
100%.
That, like them getting our staff volunteer shirts, they wear them every Sunday to church like it's their uniform. But I would say we've gotten really good at asking questions of everyone, whether they come in for our special needs ministry or not, because there's a lot of families that don't want us to know their children might have a diagnosis or special need. They don't want them to take their medicine on Sundays because they have to take it all week long. We've gotten really good at asking questions on all our forms for everyone. And not to pry, but to serve and be prepared. And yes, and to treat everyone the same. But always everyone is welcome.
Yeah, I think a big thing that this is one thing just with me, I oversee all of our special needs at our church. And one thing I will always say to any volunteer, any staff member is our special needs ministry does not exist only for those who you would classify as special needs. It exists for anyone who has a special need, which is our whole ministry. Everyone who walks through our doors has a special need in one way or another. And that
the whole church.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where we just want to care for everyone. We don't want to classify anyone. And everyone, parents will come in and they know what their kid struggles with. They know the tough, they're going through it every single day. They just need someone to not focus, like Doc is saying, on that negative. They need someone to see their child the way they see every other kid. And that's, hey, how can we help? How can we do this? And that's why it's so important for volunteers and staff to know that all it's about is saying, hey, we exist to help. In every ministry, train your volunteers on what sensory needs are. If you don't know what they are, Google them or reach out, to SOAR. Like there's so many resources out there. The way to grow a ministry is to lean into what's already there and to lean into those people that are already doing it. And train those volunteers on, hey, we don't need to classify to put a buddy with him. Maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's trauma, maybe it's abuse. Like no matter what, as a ministry, and this is just our philosophy as a church, but we will care and we will partner with any kid, any family who might have a special need. Through our buddies, through our friends, we provide those volunteers for those kids.
Love it. That's exactly what we're supposed to do as a church with it. So, kind of playing off of what both of you have said, one thing that we need to be aware of, for every individual with a noticeable disability, there are 4 other kids with what we call, invisible disabilities, maybe intellectual disability or whatever it might be that you don't see just looking at them. So, we've got a lot of individuals who are disabled, do have special needs that you don't even know. And just like Denise was saying, the parents may not share it with you. And here's the biggest reason they won't share it with you. They're afraid you're going to tell them they can't come to your church. And yes, I'm saying that. Here's the latest studies that are out there. 90% of families with disabilities do not attend the church today in the United States, any church. And guys, that means this is the largest unmet people group, and they're in our backyard. And we as a church have to open our eyes and wake up and welcome them and do something to help them. They are desperate for Jesus. They are desperate for help. And we've got to stand in the gap and welcome them. if we want to be more like Jesus, that's exactly what Jesus did. When Jesus walked the earth, 75% of his miracles were done on those with disabilities. He healed the lame, he healed the blind, he healed the deaf. If we want to be like Jesus, we will be around individuals with disabilities. That's what Jesus did. There's 3 reasons families with disabilities won't attend a church. First, they're afraid the church isn't prepared to take care of their child. Well, the latest study shows only 11% of evangelical churches in the United States can even welcome a family, a child with disability into their church. 11%. That's unacceptable. We've got to change that. And I'm thankful that we've got 2 great churches and 2 great leaders here who help buck that chain system. The second reason is they know what a burden their child is, so they don't want to be a burden to the church. And then the third one is they've been asked to leave the church too many times before, and they don't want to be asked to leave again. We've had one family that was asked to leave 6 churches, 6, before they came to us. And I'm amazed they hung with it. Most of the time, families will give up on God. And we can't do that. We've got to welcome them and bring them in. But let's get back on the training side that you brought up there, Matthew. That's an important thing. We want to help volunteers feel successful. And so part of that is going to be, do some special training for special needs. Again, I always say you only have to be willing to be a friend, and we can train you how to do everything else, train you how to be a buddy. SOAR would love to come along with you. I know, we've worked with Matthew and he's seen our training. We've got this amazing training that we can train anyone to be a buddy on the weekend or anywhere. And it's super simple. You walk out of that hour training and you're ready to hit the road. So just contact us. We're more than happy to share with you and work with you again on that. But, we do want to do some special teaching with the buddies and not just throw them in there cold turkey, if you would. So I think that's the other important thing. Why don't you guys kind of talk about what you do for training for the friends or the buddies?
I've had people with disabilities do the training. So I have someone with the vision impairment, someone with a hearing impairment, someone in a wheelchair that can share their experience and what they prefer. And so that's been really impactful. I've done a lot of put yourself in their shoes to experience. There's videos online of what someone with a visual impairment sees, what someone with a hearing impairment hears. So I think anything experiential is really great. And I always give people an out. Like, if you think this is an area you want to work in, let's try it, but communicate with me if this isn't a good fit, and we'll find you a better fit. So make sure they know a clear pathway in and a clear pathway out, because otherwise they're going to stop showing up, and then you're stuck when you think you have a volunteer and you don't. They're going to keep finding excuses not to come. But the more prepared they are, the more they know what they're signing up for, the more longevity you will have.
Right.
Yeah. Just like Denise is saying, I think there's 2 big kinds of training to do. There's equipping and helping people understand what this like Denise said, in their shoes kind of training, because a lot of us will never experience what these individuals go through. But when we get to understand just a piece of that, we get to care, we get to guide, we get to lead them even better. For us, we do, every volunteer it's called the buddy training is what we call it. And really all it is how can you be a buddy? What do you do with your buddy? How do you partner with their family specifically? And then what safety things do you have to worry about? We have 3 things. All we care about is a fun, safe, and inclusive environment as a buddy. If you can do those 3 things, then you are successfully loving this individual. So every volunteer we sit down with them, and then we make it a point to, when we do any church events or all volunteer trainings, we really step into hey, what does it look like to really highlight special needs and disabilities? So all volunteers, whether they're trained on it, they at least now have an understanding. And that's how we come together as the church. Because a lot of times you can have a special needs ministry, but it will be siloed, it will be by itself. And to kind of go against that, if there's any ministry leaders listening right now, what you do is have conversations, talk to your children's pastor about it, talk to any other leader in the church, and just share the vision for why you even have a special needs ministry. And through that, you'll start to see some unification start to happen where they're like, oh, I never even knew that that was a focus. I never knew that was important. It's not that they don't care. It's just they need someone to come alongside them and teach them, to guide them. And you can do that with parents, with children ministry, whatever your context is. You get to be that change that starts to happen, because if you're listening to this, there's a passion behind you that makes you want to make an impact and to do things in this area of ministry.
Yeah, that's awesome. Guys, this great conversation we're having. We're getting a lot of great feedback online as well. Everyone's liking what all you're saying, so thank you. I want to go ahead and go back to one of the points that Denise said earlier that I can't agree any stronger with. And Denise, you made the point that encourage our individuals with disabilities to serve. And I love that. Absolutely. We're not calling families with disabilities to come to the church to be set aside. They need to be part of the church, and we need to hold them to the same levels of everyone else. And I'm sorry, but nowhere in the Bible does it say go and only those with an IQ of 70 or higher go into all the world and share the gospel. It says all. There are no disclaimers on anything. We're all called to share, and we're all called to serve. And so let's find ways that we can help our individuals serve the church. I think Denise had mentioned about, maybe having them be a greeter or handing out bulletins. That's great. One thing I did, I had one of my teens with Down syndrome. And yes, that meant I had to get a buddy to help him volunteer. Who cares? He's called to volunteer. It's our job to help him do what God's calling him to do. And his job was to serve in the kindergarten room. And it started out with him giving high fives to every kid that came into that door, which then turned to high fives for every adult. Every parent had to give him. And then when the class went to go to their story time and worship, he set up all the stacks and the crafts for everyone. And the buddy, again, was just that guy on the side helping them. And the buddy also helped make sure he didn't eat all the stacks himself for it. But then when all the families came back, again, he's there to greet them and give them that high five. You know what? That was the only room in our children's ministry that every parent would come to. Every single parent, both parents would come to that room. Why? Because it was such a joy to see Andrew, and they wanted to see him and experience that and see the love coming out of him. That's service, and we're called to do that. So, are there other ways that you guys have helped your individuals serve and be a part of the church?
We've had some teenagers in classrooms as helpers. We've had greeters, but something is our annual, we do a big sports camp outreach, and our teen and adult life group serves food to the volunteers. So they're on the food team, and they just can't get enough of that. They also, we do have members that attend our church, and we host the Tim Tebow Night to Shine prom. Because they're part of our church, they feel like they should be there to serve. So they come to serve rather than to get all the perks that come with that prom. So they come there as buddies. And again, it's they have a buddy that helps them be a buddy to one of our guests. Mm-hmm. But they serve independently on the food team at our annual sports camp outreach. And just like we said before about individuality, it just depends on what the calling, who God created them to be and where he called them to serve. So it's really not a one size fits all for serving. We have a high school senior that helps in the 3-year-old room. We have a 38-year-old that serves on the food team for events. We have a 40 guy that just turned 40 with a visual impairment, and he volunteers for everything because he's very social and wants to be involved and be kept busy. But then this year at our virtual Night to Shine, when we were watching all our guests on Zoom dancing in their kitchens, I honored him and crowned him as a king of our volunteers. And he could not stop talking about that for months, like calling me and thanking me because he chooses to serve and doesn't choose to get the advantages of a guest. He was very thankful that I honored him in that little way. So like I said, it's just all individual depending on the person. But just like anyone else in your ministry, taking the time to get to know them and where God might be prompting them or who God created them to be and where he called them to serve. But no one, I feel, no one shares the gospel quite like someone with a challenge that loves the Lord so completely.
Absolutely.
And when an able-bodied minded person sees someone with challenging, loving the Lord through worship or serving, I feel like nothing has a greater impact.
Amen. Love that.
Yeah, I mean, just to, reinforce everything Denise said, like that is the heart of the church. That is what we are supposed to be. And don't be afraid to put people into serving positions. You don't feel like their abilities until you let them show you their abilities. Whether that's guest services, whether that's, that part of greeting or working in kids ministry, whatever that is. I think that's just so important. One area that we've really had the pleasure to lean into recently is we have this adult with special needs. She's in her 20s, and she just advocates so heavily for how do we include more adults with special needs. And she gets to come from the perspective of an advocate that actually experiences and goes through. So if you don't know, find those people in your church. Like Doc said, they're there. Just find them, ask them questions, be willing to say that you don't know the right way to do things all the time. And we can't fully understand what anyone else is going through. So ask those questions, dive deeper, figure out what it looks like for them to feel included. Not for you to feel like you're including them. It's a two-way street. To understand and to learn is one of the best things we get to do as ministry leaders. So that's really cool. And we hope to really grow just who's serving. Like Denise, you're inspiring me with those stories, because to see more of that as the life of our church, we're not there yet, but we are growing that into our DNA. So it's awesome to take those little steps.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, we're called to be doing all this and supporting them. And just like, Matthew was saying, it's absolutely okay to say you don't know what to do and just ask the family. And all they want to know is that you're willing to work with them and welcome them and figure out what to do. And so many times, I think, again, Matthew hinted on it earlier, we truly are all the ones who are disabled with it. We're the ones who really have the problems, because we have the problem. First off, we see the disabilities and we automatically assume they can't do X, Y, and Z. Let me first say, shame on all of us. The thing I absolutely love with our friends with disabilities and special needs, they don't see the disability. They see the individuals. They see all individuals for who they are. They don't see color. They don't see disability. They see straight through that to the heart. And that's what we're all called to do. That's what scripture, that's what God wants us to do. And we need to take a page out of our friend's book here and be more like them and live that way. We've got to stop putting people in boxes because of what they look like, how they act, what color they are. We cannot do this. And our friends with disabilities are the perfect example of that. And we can learn so much. I personally have learned so much from our friends that I couldn't even begin to tell you. But, it's been an amazing day here. One thing I want to make sure everyone knows about, there are a couple opportunities for you to learn more. First and most important thing, we have the Wonderfully Made Disability Conference coming up in October. October 21 and 22, we will be in person in Kansas City. And then the whole following week after that, the 25th to the 29th, it'll be virtual. So you have no excuse on why you can't come, because you can't come in person. You can do virtual. We have 2 tracks. One track for all of our families with disabilities. And then the second track for ministries and churches trying to learn how to do disability ministry and what to do and how to welcome families. Between the 2 conferences, we have over 90 speakers and 160 topics. Our 90 speakers are from all over the world. They are the top-notch speakers. This is the largest disability ministry conference, definitely west of the Mississippi, but this year I think it'll be the largest disability ministry conference in the country. And so you definitely want to be a part of it. Please write this down. Through next week, September 1st, we are giving an early bird discount, 25% off registration. And that includes, if you do the group registrations on things. So 25% off. The code is WM Early 21, WM Early 21. And you can register by going to wonderfullymadekc.com, KC like Kansas City, wonderfullymadekc.com to register for that. We'd love to have you. There's going to be amazing, great things there for you. A lot of great talks to be able to help you. If you are a children's leader or a student leader and you're just trying to figure out what to do, we've got talks there for you to help you figure that all out. Also, children's ministry leaders, student ministry leaders, maybe in October, the beginning of October, you're going to go to a Kid Men MegaCon conference in Nashville the first week of October. Great news. I'm going to be there. I'm actually in charge of the special needs track for that. We have 11 amazing talks on special needs ministry in the church. So if you're coming, make sure you come check out some of those talks that we have. Stop by. We're going to have a table. And again, we'd love to meet with you. We'd love to help you in learning how you can do ministry at your church. SOAR Special Needs wants to come alongside you. There's a lot of great organizations out there. There's SOAR, there's Key Ministry, and several others where there's so many great resources to help you do it. You don't have to be scared. You don't have to sit here and go, we don't know what to do or where to start. We will come alongside you. We give you free consultation to help with everything. And my team here at SOAR, we're more than happy to help get you on that path with things. But it's been a phenomenal talk. We're coming up on the top of the hour here now. Let me just kind of go back to both Denise and Matthew. Kind of any parting shots that you might have to share with any ministry leader that's out there, or maybe a parent of a child with a disability who is trying to figure out how to get their church to welcome them better. Any parting ideas for anyone on today?
Yeah, I mean, we've already hit on this, and I think it's a constant theme, but it needs to be said again. Don't be afraid to reach out, and you will find the answers when time comes. Especially when it comes to this kind of ministry, like we've said, it can seem scary, but it doesn't have to be. There are resources. I can't say it enough. But just reach out and let God do the rest. For a family, I understand. I've heard so many countless stories of the fear that comes with that. But I've been on the other side of seeing the way that God has worked in families' lives through one simple, hey, do you guys have a special needs ministry? Hey, I have this child, and just being vulnerable, being open. I believe that lets everyone care for each other, whether you're a ministry leader, whether you're a family. Yeah, we're all here for each other, and let's actually live that out.
Absolutely. Amen.
If you were on the Inclusion Fusion Conference, I said this there, but I'm going to say this again, that first of all, God is your provider. If he's given you this vision, it's from him, and he is the one that's going to provide. And so make sure you stay God dependent and tell people, God's going to provide, and then show people when God does provide. And that then leads into casting vision. So I would say if you can clearly tell people why you have a passion for this ministry, and share that enthusiastically, the vision will get caught. And then it'll just be fun to sit back and watch how God provides. So, and the last thing I would say is make sure the leadership of your team is on board. So in my current role as children's minister at Cuyahoga Valley Church, I'm going on my 21st year there. For the first 15 years, I had a special needs ministry that had maybe 10 kids. When it was God's timing and not Denise Petek's timing, now I have a whole special needs wing. We do the Tim Tebow prom. We do special needs ministry all year long. But to me, it was God's timing, not Denise Petek's timing. So then the whole leadership team got involved. I got to train our whole staff at our church. And then it was everybody's, a Cuyahoga Valley church vision, not just a Denise Petek vision.
Right.
Part of it was me, probably in my own strength. Part of it was God's timing for our church to embrace this ministry. But make sure you can tell people, hey, God put this on my heart. This is what God has done. Would you like to join us in helping everyone feel welcome that God brings? And I guess my final note would be, you don't have to have a great program. You have to have the love of Christ. And if you love people and meet them where they are, if that's what you do, God is going to bless that ministry, and people are going to see the love of Christ in you and be attracted to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, very, very well said. Well, thank you both so much. Just again, couple reminders. If you would like to get help and don't know what to do, or you'd like to have the plan of cares and consents or our training that we do, reach out to us here at SOAR. You can go to our website, soarspecialneeds.org, SOAR again, or you can email us at info@soarspecialneeds.org. We want to help you to be successful. We want to help you in welcoming these families, and we want you to experience the blessing that God has promised for you and your church, and by welcoming families with disabilities. Don't forget the Wonderfully Made Conference coming up in October 21, 22 in person in Kansas City, or virtually the 25th through the 29th. Go to wonderfullymadekc.com. WM Early 21 takes 25% off. I think that all has to be capitalized, but either way, it should work. And then if you like what we're doing here with this, you want to help partner with us financially, you can go again to soarspecialneeds.org/donate and give and help us be able to continue our talk with docs here with that. But Denise, Matthew, thank you so much for being a part of this today. Blessings to you and your ministries. We're excited with what you're doing. And I know it's been a huge blessing to those who have heard today and those that will hear later. Again, my prayer is that everyone listening will share this with your children's pastor, your children's ministry director, your student ministry directors and pastors, because we want everyone to be able to welcome individuals with disabilities into every church. We need to flip this number. We need 90% of churches welcoming individuals with disabilities instead of 10%. And actually, we need 100%. But let's be working on this as together, and it just takes a step at a time, and all of us linking arms. We're the Big C Church working together. So again, thank you so much, Denise and Matthew. Appreciate you all, and everyone else. You all have a great day. Come soar with us. Bye-bye.